your pocket. Oh, we're going? Okay, sorry. What's going on, folks? This is Trey Wynn, Chatton Sports, coming to you live. I've got my guys, Chase Green, Kurt McKibben. We are coming to you live from Lupton City in Chattanooga, from Casa de Kibbe. It is very good to have you all here tonight. Listen, we're coming to you live from chat, so buckle in. We're going to be here for the next about hour and 15 minutes talking some Titans, some Vols, little Predators, maybe some basketball, but hang in here with us, guys.
Yeah, man, as always, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, so leave your comments, throw some questions. We want your interaction with us. We've had a great time with all you guys the last 2 or 3 weeks. Keep it coming. That's what we want the show to be interactive. So,
also, if you are fortunate enough to be tuning into this marvelous broadcast right now, and it's not your first time, go ahead and tell a friend about us. Maybe get us out there a little bit more.
throw us a share.
I mean, you know, the more the merrier is where I always say it. You know, we want y'all commenting and stuff, and then, you know, the more of you there are, the more comments. It's just math.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun for us and also for you. I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about with two unfortunate losses for both Vols and the Titans. Here we are yet again. But it's one of those things. Yeah, it's more interactive for you all to help us get out. And by the way, for our Titans segment and the end of our show topic for Agree or Disagree, we are going to have ESPN reporter Turron Davenport jump on via phone call with us, and he'll share some of his opinions for what the Titans can do going into the bye week, kind of recap the Chargers a little bit as well. So look forward to that with us. But guys, let's jump it off here with some hot topics. As we do every week, there are some considerable topics of conversation that happened this last weekend. My favorite, I'll start us off here. The Ohio State Buckeyes lose to the Purdue Boilermakers. Hallelujah. There is nothing more in this world that I despise more than Ohio State. Not because they're actual team, but because they're fans. Now, guys, Ohio State, obviously with their entire offseason debacle and mishandling of a very sensitive situation, somehow dodged the bullet. They're still in the top. They were number 2 for this week, and they lose 49-20. Let me ask you guys this. Are the Buckeyes out of the playoff picture after getting thumped by the Boilermakers?
I think so. And the reason being is I think there's going to be too many one-loss teams. And I think that was a thumping. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to carry over. And, you know, if there's a one-loss Georgia team or, I guess might be 2-loss Georgia team, is that even going to get in over Ohio State? I think so. I think they're going to miss out this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they also, last game of the year on the 24th of November, the Michigan Wolverines, who look pretty daggum good.
Yeah.
Big win against their rivals, a little bit of pregame drama, some disrespect on the 50. But they came up with the win. So, you know, as long as you're willing to back it up, I really don't mind a little bit of smack talk.
Right. Yeah. I know for Purdue, correct me if I'm wrong, but from Brom, their coach, was in the conversation for the offseason Tennessee coaching job. Now, here's my thing. I was sitting there and watching some of the play calling for them. It was a work of art, in my opinion, to see the offense click. I know Moore, their receiver, their running back number 1, I forget his name, but they were running hard as hard as you can, but also for the sake of just play calling and the creativity. It's like, I know I'm not saying get rid of Pruitt. We should have had Braun, but out of respect for offense and his ability to take down one of the best teams in the country, I applaud you, sir. That was one of my favorite things from this weekend.
Yep.
Moving on from that, I'm going to jump one ahead here. We'll jump back to the point number 2. But World Series is set. Red Sox and Dodgers starting tomorrow night. I am curious, since you guys are some baseball gurus, what are you seeing and what are you thinking for our World Series predictions?
So, Red Sox, I think, are the favorites. If I'm not mistaken, I have not seen the odds, but I
assume so.
Pretty sure they're the favorites. I'm thinking upset, if you will.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I don't know, that may be the most money that's ever been on the field at any point in time.
So expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the Dodgers, I don't know why. There's not a good reason why. Everything would point towards the Red Sox winning this one. I just think the Dodgers are doing it this year.
Yeah.
You think they are going to do it?
Yes, I think they're going to beat them. Maybe it's my NL homer. The AL doesn't even count. Your pitchers don't hit.
Hey, There's a hot take for you.
Yeah, they've already won the World Series.
It's just
This is just a consolation game for the AL to feel good about itself.
what's your games? How many games do you think?
I think it's going to go full 7.
I think so,
do.
too.
Oh, I love this time of the year for football. I know hockey's getting going for baseball postseason. It's like, guys, stop time. We're gonna live in this period of the year because it's
so great.
sports heaven. But it's unfortunately we were just talking before the show. We're halfway through the college football season, or more than halfway through. 5 games left.
Yep.
Just cling on to it as long as you
Hold
can.
on as long as you can.
But moving on, our next topic: Rajon Rondo and CP3.
Fisticuffs.
And the old LeBron's home opener and debut for the Lakers in LA was a little bit testy in the game, a little bit, what would you say, boiled over a little bit, obviously.
Yeah, chippy.
But Rajon Rondo goes face-to-face with CP3, Chris Paul III. I'm not sure what they were saying, but at some point, and the Houston Rockets are actually forwarding this video of Rajon Rondo spitting in Chris Paul's face, which, as anybody would, and I'm almost in his defense, Chris Paul shoves basically with a pointed finger in Rajon Rondo's face, inciting a riot. I know Brandon Ingram was involved with that. Yeah, with a right hand. But little numbers here for you as far as what the league is doing about it. Paul was suspended for poking at and making contact with the face of Rondo and throwing multiple punches at him. Paul will forfeit $491,781 of his salary. Rondo will forfeit $206,000. And Ingram will forfeit $158,817,000. Just the usual.
I would take 1% of all this.
Just give me a little bit here, baby, please.
I'll be their counselor.
Yeah.
We can all sit down and talk about our feelings.
Yes.
But here's a hot take that we're not going to be able to do at the end of the show. Are basketball players the worst fighters of any athlete? I think they are.
That was the most I've ever seen connect them. Rondo had a pretty good
They actually
jab
got
there.
some hits in, but all the basketball fights
terrible.
Just whiff City.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know if they know what to do with all that length. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have that problem, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's okay.
Is it harder to swing a fist when it's that much further from your torso?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think then you're just starting to worry, like, wow, I've got this much length. Whenever you're trying to punch a guy,
Right.
you're like, wow.
I guess it is kind of, with bench pressing, if you're taller, you got a whole lot more space to go with. But maybe punching is just one of those things.
I don't know. I just think they're all sissies.
Yeah.
They are.
Hey,
Hot take. Except for Zebo. Zach Randolph.
Hashtag Grizz.
He'll back it up.
What's their hashtag Grind City?
Hashtag grit and grind. I don't
Grit
know.
and grind, yeah.
Grind City.
Moving on, we got the Amari Cooper today was actually traded to the Dallas Cowboys for a first-round pick. So now the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas, I don't know if that's still even happening. The Raiders actually own 3 first-round picks for the 2019 draft that will be in Nashville. They have the Raiders, they have the Bears, and now they have the Cowboys. Apparently, this is per Adam Schefter, so it's on very good credibility. But for what he's saying, John Gruden owns the rights to pick first-round picks.
Huh.
So the GM, I think McKenzie and him have an agreement of sorts that he can actually take those. I guess that was a part of his $10 million contract.
10 year.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
10 year. Have you all seen that, by the way, the websites that have been started about, like, how long till John Gruden is not our coach?
Oh,
like,
man. No.
and it's just like a constant, like a timer. And
Right.
it's just, it's counting down from
That's rough already.
9+ years. So I think they're jumping the ship a little bit. They're Raiders fans.
We've got a few comments coming in here about NBA fighters. LeBron was got veteran, edgy players to get in the heads of his opposing teams.
Yep.
Ron Artest said he would square up any day for Jared Hill.
Hey, that was pre-Meta World Peace days.
That
That
was.
he got rid of that.
He didn't go after anybody in the crowd, thank God. But
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, I don't know. We may have talked about this last week a bit. I don't think he's worth even a second-round pick. There was some opposition there, but obviously we'll talk more about trade deadline for the Titans and what that looks like in our Titans segment. But another NFL hot topic was Drew Brees hit another milestone with hitting 500 touchdown passes for his career. My question, real quick, we'll go through this because we're going to have to stay on schedule tonight since we have a very special guest in Turron, Davenport. But where does Drew Brees rank on your list of best all-time quarterbacks? Top, and you don't have to say number 3. Give me top 5, top 10.
I would say top 5. Like he's one of those guys that you compare somebody to every week. He's probably the most accurate passer I've seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
when you talk about big time throwers and as far as distance and whatnot, you throw Favre. And he and Peyton, I think, might be the two most accurate.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
So is he 3 or 4? Because I'm a guy. Tom Brady's my number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Peyton's there.
All time?
Yeah.
I think he's my 3, maybe my 2. Yeah.
Who's your first?
I'd say Tom, and then I go back and forth as far as, Vols fans are going to hate me, but I honestly put Breeze and Peyton as like 2A, 2B.
Okay, I'll respect that. If you were going to say, Gavin Jones says top 5 for sure, but if you were going to go Peyton, I don't know how they break down if it really matters, but I was going to say we're looking for another co-host.
Steve McNair is probably my number 1.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out.
Are you not a Vince Young guy?
Oh, Vince Young. What a star. What
Very football mind.
Speaking of bad quarterbacks, moving on to our next topic, Blake Bortles for the Jacksonville Jaguars was benched on Sunday. The locker room somehow is falling apart. Which, preseason there was a fight on the field with Dante Fowler and Ngakoue. I think Fowler's a little jealous of the recognition that Ngakoue is getting as a defensive end, kind of the guy that he could have been or wants to be kind of thing. Apparently that wasn't settled. I know Jalen Ramsey's been talking a lot, which we all love to hate Jalen Ramsey. So, are the Jags still a threat right now, or do you guys consider the Jaguars being a bit of a flop?
Looks like they're going to be a little bit of a flop to me. Bad Blake is back.
Yeah.
Bad Blake.
He's not going back and forth like he usually does. Good one week, bad the other. He's bad Blake.
He's not giving you a whole lot to lean towards. He's the same guy we saw last year. I think it looks like a locker room thing. I don't think, clearly they're the same people.
Right.
So it has to be kind of a meshing, maybe a clashing of, I don't know. I feel like like you said, love to hate Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
And all the talking that he does and all the talking he did leading up to the season, which you've heard a lot less of it now, which is awesome. But there's just a few guys that would usually divide a locker room, and I don't know who that is. I naturally point towards Ramsey, but I don't know if that's the case. But, they go out, they get Carlos Hyde, Jamal Charles.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get a contract?
And it's funny because you take Bortles off the table. Their defense is not playing anywhere near where they were hyped to be or where they were last year. Because I know obviously Titans, we beat them twice last year. We beat them once this year, and I don't know if it's something that the imploding is happening for the sake of what was hyped and what was talked about and it not coming into fruition, and that there's pointing fingers. But even today, Doug Marrone, their head coach, was initially non-committal to saying Blake Bortles was the starting head coach for next week, and then an hour later a report came out that Bortles is our guy. I'm sure he had to kind of get some correction there since they did just sign him to a huge contract. But that's one of those things. Time will tell what will happen with that. But for everybody watching, I know we have some comments coming in here from Kyle Copeland.
Thanks, Kyle.
Manning Breeze 2A, 2B. Wash your mouth out, Green. Manning is a god. You don't deserve to wear that Tennessee shirt. The Green crew has come in, baby. We're going to give them a name.
They're coming at me today. I appreciate it.
Sam and Carly Kirk come in and Chase disappointed. You put Breeze and Manning in the same category.
Thanks,
from Sam. But Gavin comes in. Thanks again for joining us, everybody who is watching now. If you'll do us a favor, share the show. If you know Tennessee Titans fans, Vols fans, Braves fans, Preds, we're trying to cover it all. But the main thing is this show is designed to be what you talk about. And yes, we'll make an outline, but if you throw a topic out or you send us a question prior to the show, that'll help us kind of cater to what you're wanting to talk about for the week. But fellas, getting that out of the way now, we're going to talk a little basketball, some Atlanta Hawks and some Memphis Grizzlies, since we've got a Grizzlies fan and a Hawks fan. I'm still kind of debating if I'm going to lean one way or the other, or I was debating about the Celtics, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Chase's pitch was, why would you not want to root for a team that will break your heart every week?
Listen, he already does it every week with the Vols and the Titans. Why not add some more turmoil during your life in the winter?
The logic is airtight.
You don't want to get too up. You don't want to start feling good about your fandom.
Yeah, right.
You want to keep it realistic.
They're going to be good for a long time. We're going to be good in a long time.
Put it on a t-shirt. Yeah. So what you got for the Hawks, Chase?
Well, we're 1-2 now. We got our first W against a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm going to say this. We did beat the former Eastern Conference champions with or without their former
their best player.
Yeah, Well, so it was nice to see. Trae Young did play like a first-round pick last night, top 3 pick. Fantastic game. Shot the lights out. Had an 11-to-1 assist turnover ratio. That's what you want to see out of Trae Young, playmaker. Right. And, he gives the razzle and dazzle, man. He's a step-back three-point shooter. Absolutely zero conscience.
Right.
I loved it. And actually saw all of our first-round picks play great last night. Spellman had a great game off the bench. He had a double-double. And then so Kevin Hueter, he's the Red Mamba.
Right.
He stepped in last night and made some threes and crashed out 10 rebounds. So
Nice. Now the Grizz, hit me with some Grind City talk, buddy.
All right, man. So it's Jamie Bickerstaff's second full year as head coach after departing, a coach that I really liked. I wasn't crazy about the move, but it seems to fit the players that are established. The Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, really like him, and that says a lot to me more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Aging stars, like I said, Mike, I believe, is 31. Mark is 33. When they're both in the lineup, and the Commercial Appeal did put this stat out, so I have to give them props. But when both stars are in the lineup, 155 and 97 over the past 5 years. When they're out, 57 and 101. So that
bit of a swing.
That's a big deal. They don't get enough credit. I wrote about it. Shameless plug once again. In my article is the fact that they don't get any credit for a long, productive career that both of them have had at this point.
Sure.
They both stayed in Memphis when they could have gone elsewhere and maybe competed for a ring. But it'll be interesting to see if they stay healthy. Chandler Parsons, of course, has glass knees. $95 million that I would have loved just to light on fire.
Give me that cash money.
But on the positive end, A would be the Hawks. I mean, B, Jaren Jackson Jr., our first-round pick, I believe is the 4th overall pick out of Michigan State. 19-year-old kid. Was seen, at least on draft day, I remember a lot of people saying, as like a long-term project.
Yeah.
Seems to be well ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting the long shot. We always knew he had length, rebounding, especially defense. He's a big-time blocker. But his offense seems to be ahead of schedule. That's positive to me to see him.
You can throw it in the block to him now. That's the thing you don't see from 19-year-old kids.
Yeah, and so everything you want, like I said, is stretch forward in the NBA. The NBA now is a lot smaller, quicker. It's good to see, man. It really is. I think the Grizz are trending upwards this year.
Sure.
After a real bad season last year.
Hopefully they can be a little bit on the brave side and have a nice bounce back. Maybe not playoffs, but we'll see what happens. But we got some comments coming in here, about to get some tomatoes thrown at us, saying, Matt Wynn coming in, my brother. Dude, the Preds are 7-1, won 5 games straight. Let's hear a little hockey, which Sam Kirk comes in, says Tennessee hockey is where it's at. Amen to Matthew. Gavin Jones did say the Hawks are taking steps in the right direction, so 2 more years they should be relevant. But moving on, we're going to jump into a little hockey talk, and since we're still newly getting our feet wet in the season, it's going to be a short conversation since the Vols and the Titans had had such a great weekend, quote-unquote. But the Nashville Predators, like Matt did say, the Preds are sitting at 7-1, which is probably one of the best starts maybe in franchise history. Matt, you don't have to correct me on that one. But for the most part, in everyone's power rankings, ESPN, I know TSN in Canada, they have them in the number 1 spot right now, which is always great to see. But like last year, winning the President's Trophy, which is best conference or best team in the land, didn't fare so well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there can be a little bit of a scheme to get some guys a little bit more rest for the longevity of the season, since it is similar to a baseball season where they're playing so many games.
Yep.
But they do play tomorrow night against the Sharks at 8 o'clock, most likely on Fox Sports. I don't know if it's a West Coast game. Again, my brother might have to chime in and share some of his wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Predators for tomorrow night. So keep an eye out. We are probably going to I might start writing a little bit of a hockey article, which you can find at chattonsports.com, which Kibbe did talk about. He wrote a kind of a preview for the Grizzlies season. Today, Chase did make his contribution and new installation for the overly initial reaction for the Tennessee Bama game this week. We're getting some really good reaction and traction with the articles on our website, which you can find our podcast, all of our social media pages. So an unshameless plug. Go find us. You can actually follow our page through WordPress, so I'm not sure if any tech guys are out there that know how to do that. But keep an eye on that. We do that consistently. We're not just going to make one individual post and then be gone for 6 months. We do that every single week. But a couple other things for the Predators. Peter Laviolette lost a bet with his players where he made the bet saying that they would not get a certain point threshold through those games, but they did. They ended up sweeping the Western Canadian road trip, which resulted in him doing a press conference with a mascot. It's almost like a Lee Corso bull. It's almost like a Ferdinand the Bull. I mean, he's sitting there having a conversation with the press, and you can hear him talking, and this mask would move as he was talking, which was pretty funny. So he might have to stop making some bets to entice some good play out of his players. One notable thing for the Predators, Pekka Rinne did go down in the game against the Calgary Flames. I believe it was Thursday or Friday. Calgary did come score a goal, and of course he was extended out, and Kevin Fiala, another player on the Predators, did make contact. Had a little bit of a weird twerk, and it almost looked like a knee, but it could have been a head issue. But the injury is actually undisclosed right now, so they have not said what it is. But they have put him on an IR, the IR for the NHL, which is a little bit of a different setup from what I understand from the NFL. If you're on the IR, you're kind of out, but Pekka should be back in a few games from what I understand. So UC Saros, who I'm of the party, and I might get some hate from some Predators fans. I'm of the party that's saying UC Saros, it's time to kind of work the guy in, pass the baton, and it might have been forced before we were ready to really see that fully happen. But to recap that, Saros did shut out on 31 shots, and no big deal there.
No big deal, yeah.
Kind of throwing some stats up. Yeah, it did come right off the bench. Yeah, and for UC Saros, you watched the game and you saw Pekka go over to the bench, and they had an actual conversation, and UC did take over and did a pretty good job there. But with all that said, to dive into the majority of what we're going to talk about, we're going to do some Vols, Titans, and then close out with some agree or disagree. So stick around for that, and we'll have Turron, Davenport. But guys, Tennessee Vols took on the juggernaut, the Goliath of Alabama this last week. What are our initial reactions for the Tennessee-Bama game as we have slept on it and now walked away from going towards South Carolina?
Well, after watching the game, if you want to read the article, I had a little play-by-play, a little love that way. I did have to go to a wedding, so I had to rewatch this after knowing the score, so it just didn't have the same effect. I was walking in sad, so made a little strong toddy before I walked up to the game and had to rewatch the DVR. So that was a tough one to get through, but all it showed was Bama's still by far the best team in the nation. And it's not even close to me.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think with 28-0 at one point,
first
quarter.
Yeah.
That at that point, talk about overly emotional. I was hot. I mean, even against this Bama team, which I believe is, I think it may be the best Bama team in the Saban era.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Tua is by far the best quarterback in the Saban era.
Yeah.
I don't know much before the Saban era. I'll go ahead and be blunt with you there.
I'm with you.
I don't think most Alabama fans do either. Burn. But man, I think what I kept saying was that to not quit was really all you could ask for.
Right.
I do think they kind of showed mercy.
A little bit.
I feel like Alabama could have put up 80 points on anyone they've played this year.
Right.
Yeah.
But you saw just a different mentality this year, and that was positive to me. The kids weren't quitting. Grown men out there in the orange and white did not roll over at home.
Yeah,
they fought every whistle. That's really all you can ask for against a juggernaut like that. I mean, what are you gonna do?
To me, it's still a couple of things, obviously, that we can control. Penalties. There was 9 penalties for 59 yards. Those are things that you can easily clean up, and I'm sure Pruitt's already on that. But I think the talk of the town right now is I know Jarrett Garantano, which the offensive line to me has still shown positive strides and improving where they've come from the Florida and the Georgia game, or the Georgia game was kind of their first positive step. But this week for them to go against the number 1 team defense in the country, to hold their own. Yes, JG did go down. Chris came in. I don't think it sparks a quarterback controversy, but to make the point, he slung the ball against the best team in the country and looked very good doing it. Got it to his guys like we saw last week where they were just able to throw it up on Auburn, get some significant chunk yards. Ty Chandler's becoming a very good third down scat back.
Fantastic, yeah.
Which is good to see. I mean, our offense is no longer, kind of the suspect play on our team. Still, I want to see more, and this is, again, against Alabama. It's hard to really beg it of the team, but I want to see more pass rush. Hopefully, South Carolina, we're kind of playing, pick on your own size kind of thing. It's getting back to that head-to-head, type of dynamic. So we'll see what happens. Gavin Jones did come in saying, is Chris the starter for the rest of the season? Let me ask you guys that question. Great question, Gavin.
I think if he started as the starter, he would. I mean, I know that seems a moot point at this point, but I think if you start with Garantano, I mean, you gotta stick with it at this point. He hasn't done anything to lose the job.
No.
I was on the Chris train to start the year. I was wondering why JG was taking the starting reps all off season, why he was going to get the start the first game. But ever since then, he's done nothing but prove it right and me wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a controversy. I don't know. I wish we didn't have them both at the same time. I wish Chris maybe would have came last year.
Yeah, something along those lines.
But no, I don't think you go off of JG or leave from JG at this point in time in the year.
I don't think so either. And honestly, when did Chris come in? 21-0?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Cubs
how
were in.
far off the pedal were Alabama defensive players at that point?
And there really was a drop off from them really pushing it, and you could hold the reins back.
Their ears weren't pinned back, and I mean that was the thing is during that 21-0 run, our offensive line did get destroyed. Poor. I mean, JG took some shots.
It seemed like a different group. The line did. I mean, they were not as every coach ever has put it. They were being the nail and not the hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
They were allowing defenders to come to them. They weren't getting into that second level and pushing guys back. It's almost like they're playing scared or nervous.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I can't say that I wouldn't be
of course.
nervous against that team.
There's NFL players in that line.
There's nothing but
and so the thing about it was I felt like Alabama was still beating us off the line.
Yep.
And we know the snap count. It's one of those things. They dominated it.
I know a lot of people have been talking about as well for the Florida game. We've talked about it as far as recruiting and recruits being in the stands, and even a lot of guys are saying now for us to be in the position. We didn't score the most points against Alabama. Arkansas actually had, I think, 31 points. I know people have been saying, a lot of Alabama fans, of course, they have to talk about it. It's it's what they do. But just saying that their defense is the bigger concern. But I agree with you, Kibby, saying this is the best Bama team in the Saban era. Yeah. I would even say it could go down as one of the best college football teams ever.
Yeah.
I know the 04-05 USC Trojans. I'd put some money on Bama being an SEC team having that talent. But then again, we'll never know. But what do you think?
What about next week? What about South Carolina?
The old Gamecocks.
What do y'all think? I mean,
currently 7.5-point underdog, which I'm kind of surprised initially about.
Just the home factor.
Yeah.
Man, I really think it's very winnable for us.
Yeah. Has to be.
Yeah, I mean, especially if JG is healthy, we're looking at hopefully an offense we saw in Auburn. So, I mean, we dominated. If they give us one-on-ones, we definitely win. I don't see. We just have to increase the running game, I think, a little bit. Some aspects, that's just one thing we've still struggled with. So
yeah. And I did put the question up for everyone watching. What do you want to see from the Vols as they take on South Carolina? I know I've seen a lot of, our running game and our backfield is doing great. Offensive line's making good strides. I think the offense is taking enough control and not really obviously taking games over. They really were productive in the Auburn game, but currently I want to see, over time, more and more people, as far as players, really have the domination of a game, and I think this could be one that. And of course, we'll have Charlotte, so hopefully it's almost like a bye week. We can prepare for the remainder. But one hot take I did have that we actually, we're doing a Titans edition for Agree to Disagree, but I'll put this one out here. My agree or disagree for everybody watching. I think the Vols will win out for the remainder of the season. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but go ahead and share your opinions on that one.
I'm going to disagree. I don't want to, but I do think that maybe a Kentucky or at South Carolina. I'm afraid that I think we win at South Carolina this week. I think Kentucky's just a very good football team. Maybe not champions of the East, but I still think they're a very good football team. They come in and probably take us down, but that's the only game I see us losing. I don't think Missouri's that great. And, I think we're going to have a good rest of the year. And Vanderbilt's a home game for us, even in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I think we get all those out. So we go bowling.
I think here it is. I think we demolish South Carolina.
Okay.
17-plus point win.
Wow.
All right. Love it.
But Kentucky, Missouri, Vandy, last 3 games of the year.
Yeah.
Kentucky's proven that they're good. Benny Snell.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just a good football team, and no one thought they were going to be. Missouri's got the offense. Vandy made Florida sweat, made Kentucky sweat. I'm just saying, I think we necessarily get lulled into something towards the end of the year, and one of those 3 beats us, whether it's Kentucky that maybe should beat us, or one of the last 2 if we beat South Carolina and Kentucky. And I think it'd be very Vol of us, to let one of those last 2 get.
And I think that's one of the things. It's very Vol of us. We'll lose one of those because of who we are.
I think a 14 to 17 point win this weekend at South Carolina.
Love that.
Hot take, if you will, but I think it happens. I think we got a chip on our shoulder now.
Gavin and Matt and Sam coming in here. Bet you whatever. Matt says, bet you whatever you want. The Tennessee Vols will not win out. Not a chance. Gavin says
whatever you want.
He agrees. He agrees that the Vols can win out if they can stop Benny Snell and keep the pressure on the quarterback. Sam did come in saying, I agree with Chase. Loss to Kentucky is highly likely they can beat Vandy in the second half.
Yeah.
There's a lot of football to be played. I know my threshold of a successful season for the Vols is definitely making a bowl game for sure. I think that would be great for Pruitt for recruiting, for him to be able to say, here's what I did with this team.
Yeah.
And then for recruits to see that and think, hey, I can really be successful under this guy. But we'll see. If there's one thing that really does concern me, I know the rush defense, like Gavin did say, makes me think about Benny Snell, and even other teams that have solid running games. Vanderbilt doesn't have a pushover backfield either. Time will tell. It's hard to say, obviously, but that's my hot take. I think if the stars happen to align, hopefully Vols fans, if we're winning these games, I'm not starting to say it feels like 98 or anything like that. But time will tell. It'll be fun to finish out in some games where we're actually going against competition. Our gauntlet's over. Thank God we won one of those games, which I think a lot of people did predict, that we'd come away with one game that we should not win. Yeah, but for South Carolina, which is 7:30 this Saturday on SEC Network, we got Charlotte, which should be an easy win. They have not announced the Tennessee-UK game and the Mizzou Vandy.
I heard on Press Row today, it's a cool thought. What if we make it through the Charlotte game with a winning record? Who would have predicted that? We make it through the gauntlet, we beat South Carolina, we make it. Obviously, I think we're going to dominate Charlotte.
Yeah.
We make it to our last 3 games with a winning record.
And then South Carolina was a game everyone, as we were just talking before the show,
written
off as an L. Everybody had just basically handed them second place in the East behind Georgia. Florida comes out of nowhere. Missouri, as I said, they got the offense to scare you if your defense is sleeping and if you can't put up points.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting that it's only, what did you say, 7.5?
Yeah, underdog. Which, like Chase said, it's probably just the home field advantage.
As much as the 28.5 against Bama
was right.
I think just the fact that it's 7.5 at this point is a big positive point for us. And like I said, I think we come out with a win and really just piss off some Gamecocks this weekend at their house.
I think it's definitely a step. Our young secondary. They've been through the fire. They've been, especially this week. You're going against some of the top athletes in the country. Let alone we were a couple buddies. Lynn Martini just jumped in here. We were sitting watching a band play at the High Beams, which, by the way, check them out if you have not. before. They're fantastic. They're on Spotify. But watching them, we had a screen showing the game, and it's as expected. For our secondary, what I still love seeing, and you mentioned this, not quitting, but you got guys getting up and trying, getting the team hype, and it's not necessarily just about maintaining, like, don't give up. I'm seeing the opposite effect happen where they feel they can beat anybody any given week, and I think going into this last stretch of our season is going to be the reason. Matt, if you want to bet anything you want, I'll happily find something we can agree on. Because I'm really believing that the Vols can finish on a strong push, go into this off season, and really help Pruitt. I think show what he can do for the Vols going forward. Obviously, I think all of us agree that he's the guy.
Yeah.
No one's really swayed away from that. But any other thoughts for the Vols Gamecocks as we go into what is this, week 7, 8, 9?
This will be 8. Yeah.
Woo! Don't go so fast.
Yeah, quit.
Yeah.
Slow down, Tom.
Well, we're going to move on, folks, to the Tennessee Titans now. Of course, we had the team, our beloved two-tone blue, go across the pond, taking on the LA Chargers, which I almost still want to call them the San Diego Chargers for the sake. I know they're actually having some talks and some consideration about going back to San Diego. Because there's another team.
Vegas,
there's another team in LA that's doing kind of good.
Yeah, they're okay.
They're all right.
Their offense is midfield, mid-range, if you will. But yeah, jumping in, obviously a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time start, which obviously is weird for us. I'm sure the travel and everything involved with the LA game is a little bit, or the London game for the Titans, is a bit of a stretch to get used to. But guys, obviously, to me, first half the Titans came out looking flat. Looked like the same team that the Bills and the Ravens saw, not a whole lot of excitement going through. Of course, you're going against one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Phillip Rivers. Mm-hmm. To me, the initial thing that stood out is, again, the lack of pass rush initially. But also, there's one guy that I'm missing more than anybody for the Titans right now, and his name's Kenny Vaccaro.
Yeah.
I do not know why Dane Cruikshank is on the bench and a guy like Kendrick Lewis is on the field. Now, I don't know what Verbal's seeing in the practice field, but I definitely think if you got a guy like Harold Landry and you got a guy like Rashawn Evans, why not just give Dane Cruikshank, our rookie safety, kind of hybrid cornerback guy, a chance to get in there and prove himself when it matters. What were your initial thoughts, Phyllis?
I agree with you. I feel like we came out with not a whole lot of energy. Like, once again, we're just coming out flat. Not a lot to write home about. It's just kind of just boring football. Yeah. Boring football. It's one of those, I think a little wake-up call was us getting burnt by Tyrell Williams.
Yeah. First play.
Yeah. A little, it was a half pump fake and gone out of there. And we got smoked on that. And so I think that was a little wake-up call, and that's when we kind of got going a little bit. So
I think on paper, between Vaccaro, Kendrick Lewis, Butler, all the guys that we've kind of brought in over the past year and a half or so, I thought that our secondary was going to be a really bright spot for us going into the season. And we saw Kendrick Lewis. I believe he was at Kansas City. He got drafted out of Ole Miss straight to Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. I may be, but he played well with other teams. Vaccaro was huge.
Yeah,
It makes me wonder what's going on. Why do we keep having the same problems? Why haven't we tried something creative, maybe personnel-wise?
Yeah.
I haven't watched the tape. I mean, I watched the game. But there's a difference between digging in and seeing what really happened.
Right. It's just a flat effort from the secondary.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think that the defense has kept us in games too, and it has been a lackluster performance from the offense that was our Achilles heel in each of the last 3 games.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like there was a chance there, even with getting beat in the secondary a little bit.
Yeah, and to me, I feel like we said first half they came out flat. Second half, I don't know what adjustments they made. The attitude seemed to have shifted, but it was one of those things that you started seeing not the 3 and outs, but you get third and mids and third and longs.
Yeah.
There were some that they were able to convert, which I'm looking up here right now as far as their statistics, looking and able to the third down efficiency. We were 9 for 15. They were 4 for 9, so they weren't in those positions as much as we were. Right. We did have 23 first downs. They had 14. Total offense for yards, we had 390. They had 344. So for anyone thinking that this game was a beating or anything close to us really getting our tails whipped, it really was not that. And that's initially walking away. It's like, man, another loss where we just got thumped. But in reality, finally our rushing attack had some traction. Dion Lewis, who's I think pulling away in this running back debate, for him and Derrick Henry. Which stick around for that. We'll get into a little bit of that whenever Turron jumps on here with us. But a couple of responses in the chat here on Facebook. Matt Wynn says, I fully support going for 2, which was a big topic we'll get into here. I just don't like the play call. I have been a big fan of the offensive play calls this year. Defense needs to improve for the Titans to be what they should. Can't believe we're still in first place. We're actually in second place since the Houston Texans did beat the Jaguars, which, again, we talked about that a second ago. The Jaguars are a little bit of a dumpster fire right now, both on the field and off the field. Gavin jumps in saying if the Titans would have won on the 2-point conversion, everybody would have said our coach has the guts and he's great, and they didn't, so everyone's putting him down. Stand behind the coach. We are in it to win it. Sam chimes in for Kurt's comments that he got that right. Kurt, offense has been flaccid, and the offensive line needs some real work. That is one thing. Like we've always talked about, it starts up front.
I think come out after the bye, I think we establish run. I think the zone scheme finally clicks in their head because it's the same guys that we bragged about, and they were our breadwinners last year.
Well, here's my quick thought, and stay with this, but you notice the change up front where Quentin Spain is out.
Yeah.
And Corey Levin, our guy from UTC drafted a couple years ago, he is in there, which he did have some success. So do you, if you're Vrabel, do you keep that guy in there, in Corey Levin?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like you've got to try to build some sort of continuity there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep something going. You can't just start making drastic changes and, how long is Spain going to be out? I mean, is he?
I think 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So it's one of those that you've got to stick with him. I mean, maybe make some rotations. I don't know where. Right. It's one of those things.
I will have to disagree on the fact that the line is the biggest problem. I think receiving core. Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw some huge drops. Taywan Taylor. I put Taywan Taylor has hands? Question mark? Because he seemed to be alligator arming. He wasn't. He was letting the ball come to his chest instead of meeting it at its furthest point. Maybe he's thinking too much about what his next move was because, I was said today, I was like, when the ball is in his hands, he's a poor man's Tyreek Hill. He's shifty. He's got speed. You want him in space, but on the opposite end, Tajay Sharp looked good.
Yeah, had over 100 yards receiving. And I did put the question up for everyone watching in the chat here and watching live with us is what's your biggest concern for the Titans after the loss of the Chargers? Yet to me, and there was a statistic that was put out by ESPN today saying we have the second most drops in the NFL, second to the Browns, which if any time that you're in the same conversation with the Browns, it's time to hit that button. And make a couple changes here. But going to move on. We're actually going to bring in Turron Davenport now. If anybody has any questions for Turron, we'll probably try and cycle through those. For those that don't know, Turron Davenport is the ESPN writer that covers the Titans now. Previously was with the Philadelphia Eagles and a few other teams, but let me get him in here real quick and then see if we can get them going. Get the speakerphone on here. Be patient with us. This is our first time, obviously.
Hello.
Turron, how's it going, man? This is Trey with Chat 10 Sports.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good. We're doing fantastic, man. Just talking some Titans right now. We've got our viewers on watching, so believe everybody can hear us. So if you're having any problems, let us know in the chat log. But Turron, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an introduction here. Like we mentioned, Turron did cover the Eagles last year. He's been with the San Francisco 49ers, Baltimore Ravens as well, and like we said, he is currently with the Tennessee Titans. Turron, I wanted to ask you the question, brother. Day in and day out, I know we're kind of recapping the loss to the Chargers in London, and being a guy that's seen this team from training camp to now, I know a lot of people are talking regarding setbacks and stepbacks, but I'm curious to know if you've seen any positive steps in other groups that we might not be hearing about that might not be the most popular of topics right now.
Yeah, I think one of the positive steps that you're seeing right off the bat for me is Rashaan Evans and just his development. He's getting better and better every week. And every time I go into the locker room, I always make sure I stop by 54's locker.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I like talking to him. But we talk about just some of the improvements and how he's feeling more comfortable. And he's starting to feel like he's back at Alabama.
Yeah.
And you see that comfort shown on the field because there's not as much hesitation as far as when it's time to come up and fill the gaps. There's not as much hesitation as far as, knowing where his job requires him to be. And that's an improvement. Another improvement that I don't even want to say improvement, just a bright spot that no one's talking about. And this man's whole career, no one talks about him, despite the fact that I will put him against, any of the 5 to 10 ranked defensive tackles, and that's Jarrell Casey.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think an argument can be made for him not being a top 5 defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman. And you see it. You look at the London game, there was a play that was going to the complete opposite side. And who do you see going and chasing down the ball carrier, number 99?
Right.
And just his hustle. And I stopped him in the locker room one time, and I just told him, I said, listen, man, that's amazing. I love watching you play football, man.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and I was just like, the effort that you bring, I'm not even on the field, and I get inspired, man.
Yeah.
Keep doing that. And just what he brings to the table. So those would be the bright spots. Another one, actually, come to think of it, is Tajay Sharp. And I know he had to drop on Sunday, and obviously anytime one of these receivers drop a football, it's magnified to the umpteenth power, and I've been there and done that. I've seen it, in 2016 with the Eagles receivers. But when you look at Tajay Sharp, and I wrote about this after the Bills game, he has stepped up and been probably the most reliable pass catcher for this team. And I'm talking about on third downs. You saw the catches that he had. Even in the Bills game, they had 6 third down conversions. He was accountable for 3 of them. And that's when I really started to think, wait a minute. This guy could be a factor. So that's why I wrote about that. And I think Tajay Sharp is a big-time possession guy that is someone that Mariota really trusts. So he's quietly developing into that dude. So those are 3 things that I think of.
And Turron, I wanted to make sure everybody knows how to find you online, brother. It is, for everybody watching right now, on Twitter, Turron is T_Davenport_NFL. Facebook and Instagram, you can find him at Turron Davenport, which he does go live just like us. So make sure and check him out. He does weekly articles, which are fantastic. He's one of my favorite guys to follow. I know he's still new to the crowd of the usuals for Jim Wyatt, Paul Kuharsky, so do not forget to follow Turron Davenport. Turron, I got Chase Green here with us. Going to ask you a question, brother.
What's up, Turron?
All right.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, man?
Just wanted to see, with kind of a lackluster performance outside of a couple of, with Tajay and Corey Davis having 2 big games, what are your thoughts on trading for a wide receiver? Add a little depth, maybe somebody, a big-time playmaker that maybe we're not seeing.
Yeah, I tell you, in that same Tajay Sharp article, I finished it up with a trade where they should look to bring Randall Cobb in, but he's still out with the hamstring injury, and there was a disclaimer in that post just saying if he's healthy. Yeah. I think Randall Cobb is an excellent fit because he is that shifty slot guy, and also he's that guy that you could run jet motion and do the end around with. You could, jet motion, have him loop, and then you just dump it off to him. He's one of those guys that makes the quarterback's job easier. And I think at this point right now, that's what this team has to do. They have to make Marcus Mariota's job easier. He's plenty talented, Mariota is, but the more pieces that they could bring in to make it Mariota friendly, the better. So I think he would be someone. And then not to mention, he's another guy you could put back there in punt returns. He's very dangerous. So those times when you don't want to put a Dory back there, you could put Randall Cobb back there. I think the same could be said for Golden Tate, who is healthy.
Right.
Now, my hesitation as far as making that the top option was just the whole issue of how will he handle coming in here and maybe not being the focal point of the passing game, especially once Delaney Walker comes back.
Right.
So I think that's something you have to look at. Both guys are national area products, right? So it's definitely a good thing from that side of things. I just want to see what it would take to pry him from the Lions or even Cobb from the Packers, if they would be willing to do that. Another guy that I think should be a target, and again, this goes back to whether or not he's healthy. And if he could be healthy and they could get him for a reasonable amount of compensation, I think Jamison Crowder is an awesome fit.
Yes.
Again, it goes back to being Mariota friendly, and he's someone. Just picture Deion Lewis as a receiver. That's basically what Jamison Crowder is. He's a guy that is very defined in and out of his routes. It's clear what he's doing. He's a reliable option for a quarterback that wants to know. Okay, if it's outside leverage, he's going to break inside. I'll throw it inside. I don't have to worry about waiting for him to break inside. I can throw it inside, knowing he's going to do that, and I don't have to worry about it getting picked off. I can throw it, outside when the linebacker's playing him inside or the DB's playing him inside. He's reliable. He's not going to get you those interceptions that makes a quarterback look dumb when in fact it was the receiver's fault because of a miscommunication. And then he's someone that if you can mix in, a deep route, like have him run a wheel route, from the inside, that's an area that he really excels. So those are some guys. And I tell you, a dark horse is Deshaun Jackson. And if you look at the Bucks, one of the things that is always interesting with them over the last year or so is just the dynamic of Deshaun and Jameis Winston. I don't know that they click. I'm not talking about personally. I'm talking about on the football field. I don't know that they jive right. So
you see his numbers go up every time Fitz is in. That's when Deshaun Jackson shows his Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. So you put somebody, and even if he doesn't catch 10 footballs, he's the type of guy you can. He can catch 3 balls and get 110 yards.
Yeah.
And then just the threat of him going out there, he's someone that will stretch the field. Now you'll see Corey Davis open a lot easier on that deep dig. You see Tajay Sharp able to work the seam from the slot. He will single-handedly make that offense better. And also, teams won't be as forced to use 8 in the box and dare this team to pass, because you put Deshaun one-on-one out there against somebody, hey, you might as well put the 2 hands in the air because it's probably going to be a touchdown.
He's gone.
You're making my mouth water, Turron. I'm going to be honest.
And then one other guy to throw in there is he's out there. I'm not sure, what his status is as far as health is concerned, but I think, obviously Dez is a guy that people are going to mention, but I would look at Pryor, and I think that he's an outstanding deep ball catcher as well.
Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, one of our viewers actually asked about him, and again, I don't know his actual standing right now health wise, but for the height, the speed out, and like you said with Deshaun Jackson, for someone else to come in and take some looks away from guys like Corey Davis, for Tajay, and even for Taywan Taylor. There's so much. I think there's a lot of hidden talent that could use that one piece to really open them up to flourish there. But TD, I've got Kurt McKibben here who's going to ask you a question about the coaching.
So I know you've been around a couple different teams, and this is a completely new regime for the Titans. The JR has put together with Vrabel. What would you give overall the coaching staff grade-wise so far this season?
I think they're above average, so I would say a B-.
Okay.
And that, I know for someone just watching the game, it's hard to say, well, he's being a home. No, I'm going by what I see on a day-to-day basis, and I'm talking about the interaction, whereas I see a Mike Vrabel going and working with 5 different positions in one practice. I'm talking about where I see a Pat O'Hara working with Marcus Mariota on, rolling out and making sure his release is right so he gets the right trajectory on the football. I'm talking about Kerry Coombs, a guy who's got a full head of gray hair out there running routes and working releases. I'm talking about Rob Moore out there, teaching the receivers how to get off the ball.
Right.
Obviously, the results aren't right there for, some of these positions, but still, you have a guy out there, Tyrone McKenzie, you're letting these guys actually tackle him. I think these players are 100% bought in, and that's the thing. That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm not so much looking at the wins and losses because this is it's a new team. It's a young team,
right?
And they did a really good job at the beginning of the year of winning the close games. But I'm looking at just the buy-in. I'm looking at with this little slump that they're in, are they pointing fingers?
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing that. And for me, when I look at a coaching staff, I think that's one of the key ways to tell whether or not this team is going to have future progress. And this is the same thing I saw in Philly from 16 to 17. I saw a team that was losing close games. I saw a team that, really bought into what their coach was saying, and they went on a losing streak, but they never, ever pointed fingers, and things didn't get out of hand, except for that one game against the Bengals. But they came back and they played their tails off the following week against the Giants because they wanted to play for their coach. And that's what I'm seeing from this team. There's no finger pointing. The adversity is showing the character, and they're always going to be in games, with the exception of that Ravens game. So I think this staff is a good staff. They're above average. The results aren't shown in the win and loss columns, but they will in the future.
For sure, and that's something, too, going into the bye week, we wanted to ask you, what are some areas that the Titans should focus on adjusting during the bye week as they prepare for the Cowboys, which I know they're in a similar boat. They obviously today trading for Amari Cooper to factor that in, but what are some things that they can really start, the basics, not having to bring in a receiver to have the adjustment, but really just in practice, if there's anything that you might see up and close that they could really focus on to take the next step?
Yeah, there's two things that stand out. I mean, obviously, another thing will be the offensive line. But see, here's the thing. You can't really work on firing off the football and playing that physical side of things because you're not being physical in practice. Right. So that's just something that has to be a 1-2 thing. But the two things for me, it would be, the pass catchers, the receivers, and tight ends. I would do, because I remember in school we used to do what's called ball bonding drills. Mm-hmm. And we would just do different things as far as focusing on looking the ball all the way into the tuck, right? And when I say looking into the tuck, that means you catch it, you pull it to your body, and then you tuck it, literally tuck it. And you're making sure you have all points of pressure on it. So that way you're just concentrating on the football. So our coach would call it ball bonding drills. And that's what I think these receivers need to do because there are some egregious drops. Yeah. I think, they need to work on hand positioning. That's something that kind of vacated Corey Davis on that outbreaking route that he ran on Sunday. And Taywan Taylor had the nasty drop as well. So they got to work on focus and concentration on the football. That's what I think they need to happen. And then that focus and concentration goes to the other side of the ball also. And I wrote about this. It posted today, and it's just if you look at some of the route combos that are arising, it's starting to become consistent. Yeah. Where you'll see the number 2, so you'll see 2 receivers to one side, and the number 2 on that that side will run an outbreaking route, and that outbreaking route is not to get open, right? That outbreaking route is designed to get covered. Because what they want to do is get that safety to bite that cheese, right? Yeah. And that's what continues to happen. The safety bites the cheese. You have a deeper route, whether it be, like Mike Williams scored on the, or Terrell Williams scored on the go route. Mike Williams scored on a corner. Mm-hmm. And then even before that, Jordan Matthews scored on a post, right? Because what happened? The safety, or even in Logan Ryan's case, the corner got caught looking at that route underneath, and the receiver got even. And I say it time and time again, receivers, as a former receiver, there's a saying, if I'm even, I'm leaving. So you can't allow that DB to get to get even, with the receiver because he's going to leave him. You get caught flat-footed, the receiver's going to leave. So I think they need to work on their training their eyes not to take that teaser underneath. And sometimes you have to sacrifice the 10-yard play to not give up the 75-yard touchdown. And that's really what teams, and even Anthony Lynn himself said it.
Yeah.
They knew going into that game. He talked to the QB coach. The QB coach told him, "Oh, this is a touchdown."
Yeah.
And sure enough, Phillip Rivers, first play, 2 taps, balls out, and it's TD. And you can't have that. So I think the secondary has to work on being more disciplined as pass defenders.
For sure. And right now, for everyone watching and TD2, we're actually going to move into our final segment called Agree to Disagree. In this segment, we're basically going to find some hot takes that people have said that we've thought of, so we won't tell you who says what. But you tell us if you agree to disagree. And Turron, if there's anything that we're asking that we don't want to get you in hot water with players or coaches, feel free to stray away.
You're in the locker room.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody giving you. Let's talk.
Yeah. But our first question here, and this is obviously a very, very hot take, but agree or disagree for everybody watching and TD as well. The Titans will not make the playoffs this year. Guys, what do you think? And Turron, we'll kind of pass it around. I'll let you know whenever you're up, brother.
Okay.
I'm going to disagree. I think even if we wind up in an 8-8, I think our conference is so far down right now that, and Jags being in hot water, you never really know what you're going to get from the Texans, how their O-line's shaking out. I think we still wind up sneaking in there. We've got a all right last half of the schedule, so I think we wind up getting in somehow, some way.
What do you think, Kurt?
I'll disagree strictly off of the end of our season schedule-wise. We got the Colts twice, the Giants, the Jets,
Redskins.
I mean, really the only team. I mean, actually, even the Cowboys. I'm not too sold on. I think the only team that we mark up as one that should be even closer a loss is the Patriots, who, if I'm not mistaken, I mean we could hang with.
Right.
I mean, I think we come back a different team after the bye week.
For sure.
And really, I mean, it's just going to be, I think, an arms race between us and Houston.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's a dumpster fire. I don't know.
Yeah, and off the field for them as well. I know there's some stuff going on. I'm going to agree with the contingency if they keep playing like they have, and it's not clicking. And like Turron said, there's so many offensive things happening, and if they're able to get those fundamental things, offensive line and firing off the ball, and the secondary kind of iron out some coverage issues. But for me, with teams like the Ravens, Dolphins, Jets, kind of everybody who's in the hunt right now, it's definitely a tight room. But I'm hoping the Titans can continue the success they've had for the running game. But as of right now, I'm not 100% convinced. But TD, what do you think? Will the Titans make the playoffs?
I think they make the playoffs. And when I look at it, you look at this division, it is not the strongest. And right now, the Texans are on top, but this team already has a win over the Texans, right? Yeah. And you always play your division teams tough anyway, and they seem to own the Texans anyway. They own the Jaguars, but they definitely always play strong against the Texans. So I think a wild card is win the AFC South or bust. That's really what it boils down to. So they'll be able to host the game, and I think that'll definitely help them because they're a much better team at home. And they have a good amount of home games left. So I say playoffs. I think they win the AFC South division.
Yeah. Right on. Second question here is agree or disagree. And again, we'll go the same style, Turron, from Kurt, Chase, Kurt, and then myself, and we'll pass it off to you. But agree or disagree, Matt LaFleur, the Titans offensive coordinator, is not the man for the job. What do you think, Chase?
Disagree. As we've all heard, like LaFleur's system is one of those that people struggle in that first year. So I kind of want to give Mariota one more year. I mean, heck, if you can make Matt Ryan a MVP, why not at least try Mariota? So I just can't do it yet. I can't hop off that wagon. I think 1 year is just not enough.
Yeah, I think his track record speaks for itself. Whether it be with the Rams or the Falcons, what he's done with quarterbacks in the past, I cannot wait to see what Mariota looks like week 16.
Right.
As well as the line. The sample size is too small right now for a brand new scheme. I would have to disagree as well. I think he's totally the right guy for the job.
Yeah, for me, I disagree as well. Let's give him some time. I think, like Chase said, for the team like the Rams running a very similar offense, I think right now you see what Jared Goff is. It kind of gives you the thought of what Mariota could be. Of course, I think the Rams having Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I mean, they've got some crazy talent. Yeah, I mean, they've got some talent, and especially a guy like Brandon Cooks. If we had like Turron said, if we had a guy like Deshaun Jackson, if we had a guy like Golden Tate, just to draw some attention away, I think that would help the offense and potentially, I mean, the running game as well. But TD, is Matt LaFleur not the man for the job? Agree or disagree?
I strongly disagree. He's absolutely the right man for the job. And he's a guy, if you look at quarterbacks that he's worked with as their QB coach, they had their best years of their career. Matt Ryan won the 2016 MVP with Matt LaFleur as his quarterbacks coach. Now, I will say this, it's early. I mean, we said a year's not enough. Hey, 7 games is far from enough. And if you look at those 7 games, 2 of them, he was without the true starting quarterback, right? You look at the Texans game, Blaine Gabbert played that game. He did a wonderful job constructing a way to manufacture points, and then the Jaguars. So when I look at the scheme, I think it matches Mariota's ability to play action. I think they need to increase more the RPOs part of it. Yeah. But I think he's doing an excellent job with what he's given. Because remember, coming into this year, who was the focal point of this passing game? Your tight end, Delaney Walker.
Right.
Who's not suiting up on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays now? Delaney Walker. So I think that's something to factor in. I think LaFleur is absolutely the right man, and they need to give some type of continuity to this quarterback because he's been robbed of that, and that really makes it very hard to find a true assessment of him. So keep him. He's the right guy.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because, and this is just Tennessee football, Vols and Titans both. I think fans are a little bit quick and a little bit got kind of a hot trigger finger whenever they're talking about coaches, and that's just something that we've heard. But we're going to move to John Robinson. Agree or disagree here, guys? Titans GM John Robinson made a mistake by firing Mike Mularkey and his staff. Chase?
Disagree. I think we needed a big jump. I think we would have stayed stagnant. Might even gotten worse. You saw a big digression, like big time drop off in production after the first year. I mean, maybe it was one of those things where all our offensive linemen played their best year at one time in that system, and it kind of worked. I just think that we're way better off. I think, like Turron said, we got guys buying into Vrabel. People love that guy. Yeah. So he's a player's coach, and I think we made the right decision.
Yeah, I think the only position you would give him, because you've got LaFleur, would be offensive line, and then he doesn't do his own running scheme. So that's I think there's no way we keep Mularkey. I mean, it's not personal. I didn't think he was that bad of a coach, honestly. Right. But it just with the regime change, you have to buy all the way in. Yeah. And I think leaving him there is it's going to send mixed signals.
Yeah, and I disagree simply because I know John Robinson's kind of getting raked over the coals. I know Malcolm Butler's been struggling. Turron talked about how Rashaan Evans started off slow. I don't think you can wrap it up and say this guy fired a playoff-winning coach. Yeah. I completely disagree, simply for the sake of, the offensive scheme. Even if it takes us some time to get this thing clicking, it's still, in my opinion, a better offensive scheme than what Mularkey brought to the table. It's still that same old early 90s, when the bus was running for the Steelers, that's what we're talking about, and the exotic smash mouth. Better be careful saying that so we don't get scolded by Titans fans. But Turron, agree or disagree, brother? You think John Robinson made a mistake by firing Mularkey and his staff?
Oh, no, I disagree. And as Titans guys, I'm sure you're familiar with July 9th being Jeff Fisher Day. So, September 7th is, in my book, Mike Mularkey Day. That's what you're going to get consistent with them, 9-7. And I think you pretty much know that's what you're going to get. I think with Mike Vrabel, there's that option for upside. And I think when you look at Mike Vrabel, there's a different vibe in the building. Yeah. And this is just going from talking to people, because when I first got there, that's what I wanted. I wanted to find out, okay, what's different from last year? And they told me that it's a lot more upbeat. They told me that, there's a different energy in the building, and it's refreshed. They feel refreshed. So I think those are all good things. So it was the right thing to do, bringing in Vrabel and his energy and his fresh blood. And I think this franchise is going to be better in the future for him.
For sure. It's interesting to hear. I mean, I'm sure you're not going to name names, and I don't want you to name names, but to hear that these certain players, I'm sure that have been around to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know, Jarrell Casey's been a guy who's been here for a while and been through it, and I know a lot of guys respected Malarkey, but even still, that the atmosphere and like you said too, Turron, seeing Vrabel out there with arm pads, getting pass rushed and just helping the team in a whole new way. You see it similarly with Jeremy Pruitt as well. Just to be out there, and it's a new game. It's a new age of player. What do you think?
I think to lack of a better term, his energy. I think he brings that linebacker mentality, the alpha male. That's what we needed. We needed somebody to, for lack of a better term, just put some swag back in the Titans.
Yeah.
I mean, we need that. We need that confidence, and I think just watching his gestures, the way he converses with the players, things like that. He looks like the guy. I mean, it's not just the players respecting. He looks the part. I think
for sure.
Going for two. We'll talk about that in a minute. I loved it. But last question, agree or disagree here. Is Tajay Sharp the best receiver currently on the Titans roster? And I will say healthy, because we're not going to put Delaney Walker in there.
Yeah. What do you think, Chase?
I'm going to say disagree. I think he's our most consistent right now. I guess here in the last couple games, Corey Davis is such a big-time talent to me that I think he's going to be a star, I think, in future years. So I still say Corey. So.
What do you think?
I'm actually going to agree. I do think Sharp has been the guy. I don't know. I think it's more almost of a mentality. Corey Davis, to me, is MIA a lot of times. He had 10 targets, only caught 3 of them for like 10 yards this last week. You see the games where he has that huge game, and he has the intangibles, the speed, size, all that.
Yeah.
But I think it's like a mentality. To me, Tajay Sharp, that ball is his when it goes in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think Corey Davis, maybe it's because he's young, but he's lacking a little bit of that right now.
Yeah, I disagree overall with the question. I don't think he's the best player. I mean, even athletically, obviously I think Corey Davis is off the charts there. But I think like Turron said earlier, if we had another guy to draw the attention away, we would be able to see Corey Davis really flourish. But it's always good to have that guy who can. I mean, I don't know how many times it was. Maybe Turron, this off the top of your head, but how many times Tajay converted on a third mid or third and long? So he's showing himself very productive. But Turron, agree or disagree? Is Tajay Sharp the best receiver on this roster?
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned this thing about Corey Davis needing someone else to be that guy. Well, this franchise traded up to the number 5 pick, right? So you don't trade up to the number 5 pick and draft a guy who's not going to be that guy, so to speak. So I think that's the big issue with Corey Davis. I think he could develop into that guy. He's so gifted, but he has to work on consistency. And for me, when I look at consistency on that receiver group, Tajay Sharp is the guy. That's why I wrote about him, like I said a couple of weeks ago, because he is the most consistent receiver, the most reliable receiver on that team. But the problem is the upside for him. Like, Tajay's not going to explode for 150 yards receiving, right? You're going to consistently get that 6 for 80, 7 for 100 type of performance. And for what this group is putting out right now, that's outstanding. So yeah, he's the most consistent and the best right now.
And I think it says a lot that Mariota went to him on third down.
Yeah.
If that shows you anything, because that's Walker's role.
Right.
When we needed a catch, that was going to the tight end last year.
I wonder if they've adjusted his role to be more like a Delaney. I mean,
he's a possession guy. He really is. He's like a Dez, honestly. He really is. He's big, strong hands. He's going to go up and get a ball, 50-50 ball between smaller defensive backs.
He might be a little lanky, but I think he's got the length to really be able to get around. But Turron, man, we thank you so much. We did want to ask you a question. I know since you've been to San Fran, you've been from West Coast to East Coast with the Ravens as well. here you are. You've been to Philly, you've been to Nashville.
A little bit of a nomad.
Yeah. What's the favorite city that you've lived in, even outside of those teams? If you've lived somewhere else, we're just curious to get to know you a little bit more, brother.
Yeah, man, that's tough because so many present different things, but it's just the vibe in the Bay, man.
Yeah.
San Francisco, that whole area is awesome. It's so chill, and it's just, I have to go with San Francisco, and it's just everywhere you go. I don't know. It's just something about that city that I love. It's actually my favorite city in America.
Wow, really?
And,
That's awesome.
I can't go against my first instinct, and that's where it is, man. Whether it be going to Sausalito, which is right by the Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, excuse me. You go there and you look up and you see the bridge just shaking. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, man. You go to Coit Tower and you overlook the ocean and you look at Alcatraz and then just the hills. There's so much to love about the Bay Area. So I would have to say that.
That's cool, man.
Did you go to the Full House they have?
Yeah, man. Yeah, you go. So there's a road where you could go and then you get the view. You know how the show starts, and they pan down on the bridge. Well, you could get that same view, man. It's awesome. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Pacific Heights, the movie with Michael Keaton in it. It took place in San Francisco. He was this landlord, and he was harassing the people that were renting from him. Mm-hmm. But I went to that house. There's so much to do. Alcatraz, you get a chance to go to that. Funny story if I got time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had my parents come out there, and so we're on Alcatraz. We do the tour. Mm-hmm. My pops is a hip hop fan. You know what I mean? So he was like, "Yo, we got to go to D Block." So I took him to D Block, and we go there, and then I turn, and he's gone. Right? So I literally walk all over Alcatraz. My footprints are everywhere on that island, right? And I finally said, "Mom, listen, I don't know where he is. I don't know what to do." Now, the only way to get there is by taking a ferry. Yeah. So I was like, I guess we'll sit here and we'll wait for him. We sat there and waited an hour. He wasn't there. So I was like, listen, we're just going to go back. We'll figure it out. So we get on the ferry, back to the pier, and then it's just like a lot of boats, like when you get off, it has those lines and you kind of walk back and forth. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're walking back and forth in zigzags. We get to the end of the line. I look on the bench, and he's sitting there drinking a big can of Stella. So I lost my dad on Alcatraz Island. I found him, at the pier. So
that is awesome.
That's my Bay Area story, man.
Your dad escaped Alcatraz.
He escaped Alcatraz. That's right.
Well, Turron, again, man, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody who's watching, find him on Twitter, find him on Facebook, on Instagram as well. He does a great job covering the Titans. For everybody who's wanting to see the in-practice footage, the post-game, and even, like I mentioned earlier, he does a weekly live stream as well. Check him out. And hopefully, sometime in the future, maybe we will have you back. And hopefully, if we ever come to Nashville, we'll be able to run into you and actually meet you face-to-face, TD. But, man, thank you so much for joining us, and tighten up, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got my number, so anytime, let's link up, and for sure, I'll be honored to come back on.
Appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your night, okay?
All right, you too.
All right, bye-bye. Well, that's pretty cool. And everybody watching, again, go find him. He's honestly become one of my favorite guys to follow, and it's a crowded room there as well. Some great coverage for the Titans. But as we wrap up this week, I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched, commented. We have a lot in store, a lot in plan. But again, any other closing thoughts for you guys?
Good dude. Turron, good dude, man.
Thanks, Turron, man.
It was awesome, man.
It was awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Brought it with the knowledge like we were hoping.
Yeah,
he dropped it on.
And I think too, and we're probably going to wrap up here, but just the idea of who knows what John Robinson's thinking in that war room of. He mentioned some guys I had not even thought about.
Didn't he? Jameson Crowder.
Yeah, Jackson. He is exactly right when it comes to the fact that he and Jameis haven't clicked, and he's a personality. I think a lot of Titans fans might say, well, he's not the guy that J-Rob wants, but at the same time, Malcolm Butler's not the prototypical,
It's true.
Cookie cutter guy. But yeah, we'll see what happens. A lot to come. Keep an eye out too. We do have our weekly posts that we do put up on chat10sports.com. Find us on Instagram, Chat10Sports, Twitter as well if you're on Twitter. But thank you to everybody who's watched the show. Feel free to share with your friends, and we will see you guys next time.